This week on The Week Ahead, we translate what the president was really saying in his address Sunday on the debt compromise. Plus, hear what this debt deal means for all of us and our future. Welcome to The Week Ahead. I'm Frank McCaffrey. An agreement has been reached on government spending. The president made the announcement on Sunday night, and like many of the president's announcements, there appears to be some subtext. And one might believe he doesn't mean what he says. We actually translated what is really meant in this statement. Check it out and pay close attention to those captions beneath the president.
I want to announce that the leaders of both parties in both chambers have reached an agreement that will reduce the deficit and avoid default, a default that would have had a devastating effect on our economy. The first part of this agreement will cut about $1 trillion in spending over the next 10 years, cuts that both parties had agreed to early on in this process. The result would be the lowest level of annual domestic spending since Dwight Eisenhower was president, but at a level that still allows us to make job-creating investments in things like education and research. We also made sure that these cuts wouldn't happen so abruptly that they'd be a drag on a fragile economy. Now, I've said from the beginning that the ultimate solution to our deficit problem must be balance. Despite what some Republicans have argued, I believe that we have to ask the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations to pay their fair share by giving up tax breaks and special deductions. The second part of this agreement is so important. It establishes a bipartisan committee of Congress to report back by November with a proposal to further reduce the deficit, which will then be put before the entire Congress for an up or down vote. In this stage, everything will be on the table. Most of all, I want to thank the American people. It's been your voices, your letters, your emails, your tweets, your phone calls that have compelled Washington to act in the final days. And the American people's voice is a very, very powerful thing. We're not done yet. I want to urge members of both parties to do the right thing and support this deal with your votes over the next few days. It will allow us to avoid default. It will allow us to pay our bills. It will allow us to start reducing our deficit in a responsible way. And it will allow us to turn to the very important business of doing everything we can to create jobs, boost wages, and grow this economy faster than it's currently growing.
Wow. Now, we here at Americans for Limited Government did some research, and we found that we are now on track to go up $7 trillion in our national debt over the next 10 years to $21 trillion. Now, that $7 trillion is larger than the annual GDP of every nation on Earth outside of the United States. This includes China, Japan, and Germany. Those stats are according to the CIA Fact Book. For more on this, we're joined by Americans for Limited Government's Communications Director, Rick Manning. Rick, what does this mean for our future?
Here's what it means, Frank. It's really pretty simple. $7 trillion in new debt over the next decade due to this debt deal. That's an incredible amount of money. That's so much money that it's literally more than any other country in the world has as a GDP right now. It's inconceivable that any debt deal that allows us to continue bringing up massive amounts of new debt will not result in a credit downgrade. You know, what we see is a snowball effect that's occurring that's going to be devastating for not just those of us who are adults, but for our kids and grandkids. The snowball effect is this: the more debt we have, the more interest we have to pay on the debt. The more interest we have to pay on the debt, the more money we have to spend to be able to keep ourselves solvent, which means that either we're going to have to dramatically and drastically cut social services in the future, or we will default. It's just a matter of time. That's disastrous for our children, for our grandchildren, and for the future of our country.
Thank you very much, Rick, and that's all the time we have for the week ahead. Please join us again next time.
For more on these and other issues, visit netrightdaily.com.